If I can't have you, no one can. You ever heard that phrase before? Usually it's from someone who's in a bad relationship. Well, there's also another one that resonates that you should pay close attention to. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. I know. It's been a couple of weeks since I have given you all an episode. I know the last episode before today was April 15th, and I sincerely apologize. I recorded an entire episode, this episode, and apparently nothing saved. So I had to go in and re record it all over. I tried to use a new system, and that was the dumbest thing I could have done. So I definitely will not be doing that again. I will be sticking to what I know. It got frustrating and I got behind on some other stuff. So, listen, my apologies. To make up for that, I am going to be giving you guys an episode on Monday, which is going to be, I believe, May the 6th. So, yes, because tomorrow's Cinco de Mayo. I hope y'all are turning up for Cinco de Mayo and going to be drinking. I know I plan on it. Anyway, but Monday I will be giving you guys another episode to make up for the fact that y'all had to wait 2 weeks. Listen, this ain't gonna happen all the time now, okay? So it's just gonna be y'all enjoy it while you can, okay? Y'all gonna get a bonus episode on Monday and then it's gonna go back to being weekly because listen, y'all don't understand how much research goes into these cases, okay? Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. All right. This week's case involves the death of not one, but two minors. So I strongly advise that, if it's something that's a little sensitive, you kind of skip some parts. These are two innocent babies. And the more cases that I research and look into, the more cases that I see involving our precious little brown babies. So just kind of listen at your own risk, okay? Now, as usual, y'all know I got my little drinky drink and popcorn. Tonight's drink of choice is the passion fruit Ciroc because my monthly order of wine from Mountain Valley ain't came in yet. So, drinking the hard liquor tonight. What y'all sipping on? Let me know. Hope y'all got y'all glasses ready. All right, let's go ahead and get it. This week's case involves Takira Collins, victim, David Cousin Jr., victim, Armond Johnson Jr., victim, Aubrey Stone, victim, Junius Thompson, suspect. Ooh, that's a name. Michael Stone, Takira's baby daddy, William Sims, the new boo, and the infamous murderer of the week, Armond Johnson Sr. Takira Lachey Collins was born December 21st, 1993, to Naila Dozier and Ross Collins Jr. Sadly, Takira never got to meet her father because he was killed before she was born. Y'all, this was so sad because her father, Ross Collins Jr., was only 16 years old when he was sitting in a parked van on East 91st Street and Birchdale Avenue in Ohio, which is about 10 miles north of where Takira lived during this episode. He was shot and killed, and there was an arrest that was made, but eventually the charges were dropped. The really sad thing is that Ross's mother ended up committing suicide not long after his death. Like she couldn't take the loss of her child and she ended up taking her own life. Shortly after Takira was born, her aunt Andrea Kent said that Takira's birth kind of injected new life into the family. During one of the interviews, she says, when she was born, she brought peace and comfort to us, to hold her. She was a piece of our brother that was still left on this earth, along with her children. Like, y'all, this woman was literally the last living connection to this man. Now, things weren't easy after her father died. Her mom, Naila, gave birth to Takira, and it was a struggle for her and her brother as kids. You know, their mother was struggling to make ends meet. It's not much more on Takira's childhood outside of, how she and her brother were really close. Like, a lot of siblings, they're close to each other, but Takira and her brother were more like best friends than, siblings. But there was always that part of Takira that longed for her father. She wanted that void filled. And Takira was a very outgoing individual and, lived her best life. She attended John Adams High School in Cleveland, Ohio. One of her friends, Kayla, described her as beautiful and sweet and a risk taker. And she was beautiful. Hell, I mean, she literally had the word gorgeous tattooed across her chest. Like, ooh, that's some boldness. Listen, I got my little, paw prints, but but, she was a very pretty girl, but she still had that longing and that void that she wanted to feel, where her father should have been. And it was that longing for companionship and, the love of a man. And while she was in high school, it was then that she met Armond Johnson. Armand Andre Johnson Sr. was born April 14th, 1993 to Nakia Johnson. His mother had four boys, Ricky, James, Armand, and then there was another brother, but I couldn't really find any information on him. And that might be a good thing because damn if these dudes didn't have some shit in common, like murder. Anyway, now, based on court documents and research and everything, Armand had a bit of a rough childhood. Like, it was a lot of abuse that went as far back as with his mother. When his mom, Nakia, was a child, she was actually removed from the home along with her sisters and brothers because of abuse. And this was back in like 1986. Like, they were being neglected and everything. In fact, when Nakia was 11 years old, her mother, which would be Armand's grandmother, was 4 months pregnant and murdered by her boyfriend. Like, what the fuck? Naturally, as time developed, his mother became diagnosed with depression and suffered from intellectual deficiencies. Now, there were also other documents stating that Armand had a history of problems too. He was born with intellectual deficiencies and it affected his schoolwork. Like, he was only able to read at like a fourth grade level. He failed pretty much most of his tests in elementary school, showing that he had an IQ of like 75, which put him in the bottom fifth percentile of the population. I kind of wonder if it's like genetic, maybe, because like, okay, your mom has intellectual deficiencies, and now you have them. Like, that's something I really wish I could have dug more into, but Armand's criminal record started very early. Like, bruh was charged with a sexual offense when he was only 13 years old. And his juvie record was, I mean, extensive, y'all. There were convictions for rape, armed robbery, assault. He did time in juvenile detention center. And during that time, he joined this gang called the Heartless Felons. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds rehabilitative. Like, did no one think like, we trying to show that we can do better, so let's call ourselves the Heartless Felons? Like, that just it's the opposite of rehabilitation. Like, I don't get it. But there were records showing that, he had been locked in isolation several times, including once for like a whole 7 days after he was involved in a fight with other inmates. And it got to the point that there was actually a class action suit that had been filed by his attorney, or rather by this attorney named Kim Tandy. It was filed against the state of Ohio back in like 2005, and it was pertaining to widespread constitutional violations inside of the facility activities that were ongoing during the time that, Armand was incarcerated. And that's something that we still see to this day. Like you still see, lawsuits against the prisons and against the states because they basically treat the inmates like shit. Like we get it, they're in prison, they're supposed to be, rehabilitating themselves. They're supposed to be, it's not going to be, glitz and glam, but at the same time, there's, basic standard requirements and they don't have that. Some of them are sleeping on paper thin mattresses, or if they get a mattress at all, the living conditions are third world, so it's not really as if anything has changed since this one was filed. Needless to say, Armand had a lot of trouble as a result of his environment growing up. But I mean, can you say necessarily you can use that as an excuse for the shit that he's done? Like growing up in the same neighborhood like your mom, could you say, okay, this is the reason why I did this? But it was living in that neighborhood that Takira met Armand. Now, although he grew up with his mother, he spent a lot of time with his grandmother, Cynthia Lipscomb. They all lived in the same area. So when they met in 2011, it was like, boom, instant connection. They were inseparable. Takira was falling hard for this dude. And y'all know how it is when you're in high school. You always boot up with each other. You calling each other on the phone. Y'all texting all day or talking all day, caked up, laying in the bed with your phone. You hang up, baby. No, baby, you hang up first. And falling asleep, listening to each other, sleeping. Like maybe it was just me. I don't know. I've had that happen like maybe once or twice where, as a teenager, and then yeah, I had different kind of parents though. So that wasn't gonna fly. But, they were pretty much joined at the hip. And, a lot of her friends and family were like, listen, where you saw her, you saw him. They couldn't get enough of each other. And before long, Takira was pregnant. And, she goes to Armand and she's like, baby, guess what? We about to have a little family. We about to have a baby. I'm pregnant. And, surprisingly, Armand was happy. Like he was ecstatic. He was like, yo, I'm about to be a whole daddy. Like, okay, let's go. We about to be a family for real. They were forming their little bond. Now, Takira was still in high school at the time that she got pregnant, but she was determined to finish. And, she continued to go to classes. She continued to prepare to be a mother and, welcome her beautiful baby. And on November 26th, 2012, she gave birth to their son, Armand Andre Johnson Jr. Now, while they were excited about being parents and, like I said, they got their little family now, things between Takira and her man kind of started to get a little rocky. Like, Takira, she's focused. She's focused on being a mom and taking care of their baby and graduating high school. But this nigga Armand was still in them streets. And I mean, that nigga was all the way out there. Like, his true colors were really starting to show. Not to mention, he was becoming very violent, especially towards Takira. So Takira, she's proud of herself and her accomplishments. And despite the fact that she had a child early on and she was still in high school, she graduated. Like she graduated from John Adams High School in May of 2013. And their son, I want to say, was barely 6 months old. Like that's a major flex. And y'all, on a side note, the baby pictures of him were so cute. Like he had the chunkiest little cheeks. Oh my God. Like it was like a little chipmunk. It was so cute. He was just a chunky little man and it was so cute. But, her relationship was really in trouble. Like I was actually on her Facebook page and saw that there were a few posts that she had made where you could really kind of see, what she was going through. Like she wasn't really feeling Armand at one point. Like it was a lot of up and down with the two of them. Like one day she was posting stuff about him like fuck this nigga, the next day it was like, oh, I love my baby daddy, all of that. Like On June 16th of 2013, she made a post that said, "So my husband just want a foot massage for Father's Day. His toes is crusty, but I got dinner ready. His athlete's foot cream and a little something else for my man. Can't wait until he get home." Like that's, that sounds good, right? Like, okay, the crusty part though, damn. But okay. But then, literally 10 days later, on the 26th, she makes another post and it says, "Got a new friend and he is sexy as fuck." Girl, what? Then that same day, there's another post that says, "On the phone with my little friend, talking about a lot, no interruptions, and fat man yelling in the phone." And then that same night, she makes another post and it says, "So, time to block my baby daddy before he try to beat my friend up." Like, god damn. Like, y'all see what I mean by the ups and downs. And a part of me is just like, you know what? Like, she technically is still very much a teenager. She's just a teen mom. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But like 10 days before it was my husband, then it's, "Oh, I got this new friend, fuck my baby daddy." Like I said, it's up and down, child, I guess. But the one thing that was constant was she never stopped focusing on her son. Like there was this one post that she made a couple of months later on October 15th, excuse me, of 2013, and it kind of really stood out to me. Like it said, "I can only live my life and I can't help many accomplish and live theirs. I tried and tried, but I'm living for me and my youngin' and we gonna make it." And like I really felt that shit. Like because it came off like, "Yeah, nigga, you tried to get me down. You tried to break me, but I'm still here. I can't focus on you and your problems. I got to focus on me and mine." Like that's what I got when I read that. You know what I'm saying? So I felt it like and she had a lot of responsibility. Like she was always working multiple jobs and everything, but it was just too much when it came to Armand. And as time progressed, he started taking out his frustrations out onto Kira. He's threatening her. He's putting his hands on her, like to the point that when their baby was like a year old, Armand actually assaulted Takira while she was holding their son. And so that occurred. But then on top of that, he goes and commits armed robbery. So he gets arrested and convicted, and he ends up having to go to prison. Armand gets convicted of domestic violence in 2014. And then, like I said, he was also found guilty in three separate cases. So check this out, y'all. In 2012, he broke into a woman's home and robbed her. Then on March 10th, 2014, he robbed a woman at gunpoint and shot at her and a dude while running away. Literally 4 days later, March 14th, he shot a man in the back, luckily not killing him, but definitely shot that dude. So, they had this nigga, he had to get snatched up and put back into the system. And while he's in prison, Takira's like, "Listen, this ain't about to stop me. I'm not about to be on some ride or die down for mine. Like, I'm not about to sit here and wait on you. This ain't gonna hold me back. I got a baby to take care of." And she was grinding, like, sis was working hard. Like I said, she had several different jobs. She worked as a housekeeper at Crown Plaza Hotel in Middleburg Heights. She also worked as a janitor at Cleveland Clinic. Now, y'all pay attention to that name, okay? Remember Cleveland Clinic because it's going to pop up again real soon. Hint this bonus episode. But anyway, there were a lot of different things that Takira did, but, you know, again, she's that type of person that she still longs for that companionship. She still longs for that true love. And after a while of Armand being in prison, she ended up meeting somebody new. She got her got her little new boo thing named Michael Stone. Now, Michael, he was everything to Takira at one point, and she figured she had the man of her dreams. They were in a relationship, they were going hot and heavy for about a year, and once again, she got pregnant. And this time, she gave birth to a beautiful, beautiful baby girl named Aubrey Stone. So for the time that they're together, things are great. They're having a little family. He's even around for Armond Jr. Stuff is good. But then, like clockwork, Takira starts noticing Michael starts tripping out a little bit. Like he's becoming very aggressive and very controlling. Like every time she did anything, it was like, yo, what you doing? Where you going? Who you calling? Who you texting? Like, nigga being real inquisitive, like real bitch made. It's giving very much insecure. So ultimately, after about a year, their relationship ended. But Sakira, she still had her daughter and Armand. So now she's single with two kids, but she's resilient. She don't let it stop her. Here's like, look, shit, I gotta grind harder than ever now. I gotta get this money. Gotta take care of these kids. Got one at pull-ups. Damn. And that's what she does. So she's still cleaning and everything. She's looking into community colleges, taking care of the kids, the whole nine. Now, ladies, y'all know we as women, as much as I hate to say it, but we say we want a good man, but let's keep it a band. Most of the time, we attracted to the wrong kind of nigga, even when we want the right kind. Like, he may not be a good man, but he got some good dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see the red flags, but you ignore the fuck out of him because he dicking you down. He got that good. Like this nigga ain't shit, but he fuck you so good he knocked the sonic rings out your ass. And that is what happened when she met Junius Thompson. First of all, these names. Now, there's not much on him other than the fact that they met in 2016 and shit between the two of them went left real quick. Like, the nigga was batshit crazy. And not long after they started talking, Sakura was like, "Nope, been down this road, ain't doing it again. You turn, not gonna be able to do it. Too much drama. Deuces." And she ended up leaving his ass alone. But this nigga couldn't leave her alone. And I mean, it was to the point that she ended up having to get a restraining order on him. Like, it's good that she did that, but honestly, I feel like these restraining orders are bullshit. Like, they're trash. So, like, I literally saw a video of a man that shot and killed his girlfriend in cold blood right in front of several people. So, like, there was this guy that was on his balcony, and like, it showed the tail end of the video, but there was this guy that was on his balcony, and like, he was yelling at the dude from, his balcony. He was like, you leave her alone, don't you hit her, don't you hit her. And like this nigga is literally chasing this girl around a parking lot and she's screaming for help. She's like, he got a gun. Help. He got a gun. He got a gun. And, the dude from the balcony is just like, leave her the fuck alone. Don't you hit her. He ain't hit her. Nope. He literally grabbed that girl and stood less than 2 feet away from her and shot her several times. And I wish somebody had said trigger warning or something because I watched this girl's body drop. And this girl had just gotten a restraining order on him. So, that's why I say personally, I feel like the only reason that I would have a restraining order if it gets to that extent is so that there's a paper trail or documented evidence, because when I physically defend myself against you, if you so much as come near my presence and I got a restraining order and you got that piece of steel up against your head and that bullet go in so swift, oh, trust and believe I can say that that restraining order is the reason why, because the restraining order is going to be my secondary protection. I'm gonna have something else, for primary. Okay. But I get it. Not everybody has the same thought process as me, and that's understandable. I just ain't for the shit. Like, ladies, if you have to get a restraining order, I implore you, please get some type of weaponry. Like, preferably the kind that pops hot lead, you know what I'm saying? But, get some type of weaponry. Don't, it's not to say that restraining orders don't help, but in most cases it just fuels the man's fire, or it fuels the other party's fire. It makes them want to come after you that much harder, and it's been proven. If I tell my ex, or if I tell a nigga I'm getting a restraining order on you, or I got a restraining order on you, I'm gonna expect them to do some crazy shit. And so, that's when I say, okay, protect yourselves, because 9 times out of 10, if they're crazy enough to the point that you gotta get a restraining order, then they're crazy enough to ignore that shit, because they know it's just a piece of paper. And by the time that the cops get to them, or get to you, it could be too late. So protect yourselves. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, Takira decides that she can't deal with that, and she left him alone. She had to get a restraining order because this nigga was on some whole, if you leave me, bitch, I'll kill you. You can't get away from here. Old Ike Turner type shit. Y'all remember that movie. Yo, to this day, that shit still bugs the fuck out of me. That nigga said when Anime was in the damn ambulance, this nigga said, if you die, bitch, I'll kill you. What? Like, that shit was so stupid. I'm sorry. But that, to me, that's kind of what like Junius was on. Like, this nigga's like, you die, bitch, I kill you. Like, she was like, yo, fuck this, I'm out. So time goes on, and Takira is living for her and her kids. But in the back of her mind, and somewhat her heart, she's still kind of pining away for her baby daddy. And I ain't talking about Michael. I'm talking about Armand's ass. She was still in love with him, despite the things that had gone on. She missed him. He's still in prison, of course, but they ended up reconnecting. And of course, this nigga is real lovey dovey when he on the inside. He's telling her everything she wants to hear. Baby, I'm sorry. You know I love you, girl. I miss you. I want us to be a family. When I get out, all I want to do is be there for you and my son. And I want to be there for Aubrey too, because that's going to be my little girl. Telling her everything from the inside. Shit sound real good when you locked up. Like, okay. But it's music to her ears. And, I'm just like, yeah, everything sound real good when you confined in them walls and you can't actually do shit. But Takira, she's feeling it, and it sounds beautiful to her. She's getting her family back. She's Team Armand. She got this nigga name tatted on her and everything. Listen, last time I got a nigga name tatted on me, yeah, and that was his last name. It didn't go well at all. Got that shit covered right on up. Trust and believe, okay? And you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm wondering, because he went and got my name tatted on him. I'm wondering if that shit's still there. I'm pretty sure old girl was like, nah, you got to get rid of that shit, homie. I'm almost certain she made him cover that up. I'm petty right now, my bad. So, like I was, saying. So I was perusing Takira's social media, and there was a picture that she posted of their son, and the caption said, "Free my daddy." Well, shit didn't necessarily work out exactly like that, because yeah, homie wasn't quite free for like another year or some change. But 5 years, he gets out of prison. March 19th, 2019, Armand gets released from prison and is on parole. When he gets out, of course, he goes to Takira like he promised, and their family is back together again. He's spending time with her. Now, he actually proposed to her while they were in prison. And, she was ready to be his wife. Like, she was planning for the wedding, looking for venues, all of that. She's doing everything. She had even set their wedding date for August 26th, 2019, which was like 5 months after his release. I'm not sure why she was doing it so quick, but shit, I can't talk because my wedding date done changed 3 times. Like, I am so ready for November to get here so we can say I do and be done, because damn. So, March 20th, 2019, the day after Armand gets released from prison, he and this other nigga decide they need to get some money. Yep, one day after he's released from prison. Like, nigga, really? He and this dude go to Urban Thrift Clothing on Clark Avenue, and they robbed the store at gunpoint. They stole dozens of items and then kirked off. Like, so y'all put a pin in that because we gonna go into that a little bit further later on because now the cops is looking for his ass. Like, you would think that he would take this as an opportunity to get his life together when he gets out. Nope. Instead, he's on bullshit less than 24 hours later. Takira's got herself together and, she done gave him another chance. He's begging to be back with her, all of that. She's like, okay, baby, we can try this again. She had actually gotten him a job as a janitor at one point. And, she really wanted them to be that cohesive unit. Like, she really wanted him around. He's being a father to not only his son, but to Aubrey. And, of course, it's because Michael's ass ain't around for his daughter. Hell, after they broke up, that nigga did what a lot of niggas do and got ghost. Motherfucker turned into Casper. He was just like, fuck the fact that I got a kid and I ain't with the baby mama no more, so the kid just don't exist. Like, he was basically a child support daddy. He paid the child support, but he didn't really see Aubrey like that because, there's kind of various reasons. There's different versions. He's saying that he didn't know where she was. She's saying that he just chose not to be, so who's right and who's wrong? Unfortunately, I'm not getting into all of that, but you know supposedly Takira never told him where she lived, and it was good reason to, because Michael had that little temper, and she didn't want them kind of problems. She had her babies to think about, but the sad thing is that she ended up having problems in her own damn house. So shit was going good for a while. It was their little fresh start. And so she decides that she's gonna, go ahead and be this perfect little family. And, she's posting about the wedding on Facebook, she's dress shopping, all of that. But eventually, it ends up going back to the same routine with Armand. He's controlling, he's aggressive, he's physically abusive. Like, these are the things that she had already endured before. Hell, he hit her when she had their son in her hands. And now she's got two kids that she has to take care of. And, not only is he beating on her, but now this nigga is pulling a gun on her and threatening her, like on some next level shit. It was one particular situation where somebody else noticed what was going on with Takira. So, remember I told y'all she worked as a housekeeper at a hotel. On June 17th, 2019, she came to work with a busted lip, bruises, and the girl could barely do her job. Like, she could barely clean the rooms. And I guess at that point, she had just reached her breaking point. She literally was fed the fuck up. Like, she was getting sick of his shit. So she told Armand, nigga, we done. I'm sick of you. Get your shit, and get out. Let's see who knows where that came from. But, she was like, I can't be with you. I thought you changed. But nah, you the same fuck nigga that you were before. And I ain't with this shit. So you gotta go. And she broke it off with him. She was really done with him this time. Now, at this point she's like, you know what? We need a fresh start. So she decides that she gonna move. So she takes her and her kids and they end up moving to Slavic Village. It's a neighborhood in Cleveland where there's like a lot of immigrants and whatnot. It's an area neighborhood that I guess you could say is kind of in recovery from the industrial downtown. So, she moves over there with her kids and everything is good. They got this fresh start, new house, they're happy. Now, on June 20th, 2019, Armand texts Takira asking to see his kids. And Takira was, messaging him back, telling him, hell no, Armand don't want to see you. And Armand ain't happy about this at all. Like, not that his baby mama is rejecting him. Like, so he messages her back and he's like, it's crazy. My kids don't even want to see what I'm living for. Damn. Boy, anyway, whatever. Crazy how they always use the kids after they don't fucked up. But they're continuing to go back and forth for several days. And he is really like not letting her go. He is just not getting the hint. And it ain't even a hint. Like, he just ain't taking it. Like, Takira is like, why the fuck is this nigga not understanding? And so on June 27th, 2019, Takira texts him and she says, "Nigga, we over." But all he does is respond back. Now, these are direct text messages. I had to pull them from the records. But he responds back, "I've been miserably without you, Kira. Like, I know I fucked up. I know I'm fucked up, but I'm trying to make it, but it's so crazy." No, it sounds more like you're crazy. Like, it sounds like you're trying to manipulate her into dealing with your bullshit so that you can get her back. Also, that you can just what, beat her ass again? Now, Takira ain't hearing none of this shit at all. And they say the best thing to do when getting over a man is to get under a new one, right? And clearly, Takira didn't really have a problem getting a nigga because even though she broke things off and broke off her engagement shortly after that little incident where, he pulled a gun on her and threatened her and then busted up her lip. Oh, baby, she had a whole new nigga. She started seeing this guy that she met at work named William Sims. And baby, when I tell you he loved him some Takira, within days of them getting together, he was taking her on a romantic trip with him for the July weekend. And Takira is loving it. She was like, "Yes, my man taking me out of town. We going on trips and shit, from Cleveland to Detroit." No, actually not Detroit. I'm sorry. That was Armand. Takira actually let Armand take the kids to a family reunion in Detroit so that she could go to Chicago with her dude and spend time. So she's like, "Okay, we leaving from Ohio. We going to Chicago. We getting flued out." I don't think they got flued out, but you know what I'm saying. And so, she and her boo William, they're texting each other nonstop. Same thing that she was doing before. They're constantly flirting with each other. They're at that cutesy little phase. And when Armand found out that Takira had moved on so quick, oh, he spazzed the fuck out. He just couldn't take the fact that she didn't want to be with him no more. And rather than him work on himself and truly become rehabilitated or, try to prove to her that he could be a better man or, actually be a fucking better human being, he wants to make her life a living hell. So on July 7th, when Takira gets back from her trip from Chicago with her boo, she texts her baby daddy Armand and she asks him when he's going to bring the kids back. Y'all, this nigga text messages her back, and this is a direct message. It's gonna sound like I had a stroke when I read this shit, so just heads up. This shit gonna sound weird, okay? But he messages her back and says, "It's cool, you do dumbass shit. That's why we don't want to be around your ass. You act high, couldn't take them Shield House. She opened at 6 a.m., but it's cool. Don't worry about it. We ain't got to figure out no more arrangements. Then they should not have went if you didn't have proper arrangements. But you can get the fuck off my phone. It's nothing else to talk about ever." Mm, Jesus Devonte Christ. Okay, so first of all, there were so many grammatical errors in that shit. It made my head hurt. Like, this nigga did all of that and literally was telling her, "Yo, get the fuck off my phone." So I think what he was actually saying was, "It's cool, you do dumbass shit," because there's literally no periods in this either. He said, "It's cool, you do dumbass shit. That's why we don't want to be around your ass, not your, but your ass. You act high, couldn't take them to Shield's house." I'm assuming that's somebody's house. "She opened at 6 a.m., but it's cool. Don't worry about it. We ain't got to figure out no more arrangements." Not arraignments, which, yeah, he would know about that. "You shouldn't have to figure no more arrangements out then. They should not have went if you didn't have proper arrangements. But you can get the fuck off my phone. It's nothing else to talk about ever." But then literally the next day, he texts her again. After telling her to get the fuck off his phone, he messages her. Okay. Literally the next day, July 8th. Now, do y'all think she gave a fuck? Hell no. She had her boo. She ain't responded to none of the other messages. She just responded, but not like how he wanted. She just texted him back and said, "Are you taking Armand to therapy?" Like, y'all, that nigga pride was hurt. So now that she's back and getting back to work and everything, she back to her, normal little routine. And on July 8th, 2019, she goes to work. She's talking to her boo William, and she goes to pick up her kids before she goes home later that evening. She makes a stop around 8 o'clock that night to get the kids some Happy Meals from the McDonald's on Broadway. And it just so happens that her car is seen on the traffic cam that's by the restaurant. She goes back home and, gets her kids inside the house for them to eat. And the kids sit down and they eat their food. And, she gets them ready for bed and all of that, like a good mommy. So the kids go to bed. Takira's chilling. And then Armand shows up around 10:40 p.m. He's confronting her about her being with this new nigga. He's yelling at her and he's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? How you out here fucking around on me with other niggas and don't want to be with me? We supposed to be getting married. You supposed to be with me." And she's like, "Nigga, do you not see how you acting? Like, that's why I don't want to be with your ass. Like, you are fucking crazy. You're losing it. You keep putting your hands on me. I hate you. Like, I hate you, Jody. Ain't no, oh, I love you, Jody." Y'all know, Yvette and Jody was some fucking crazy motherfuckers. But she's like, "Nigga, you put your hands on me. Like, fuck out of here. I'm not having that. You gotta go." And so they're arguing back and forth. Thank God the kids are in their rooms in the bed because Armand is just being such a asshole. But the next thing you know, Armand takes out a gun and he shoots Takira in her stomach and in her back. He shoots her a total of 10 times. And at 25 years old, Takira is dead. But Armand, he don't stop there. He drags her to the bedroom and lays her on the bed and then he runs out of the house. Now he don't have a car, so he takes her car and then he drives over to his house where he stays with his grandmother and his aunt and he gets a container of gas and then comes back to Takira's house. And he starts pouring gas all over the place. Now, Junior and Aubrey are still sleeping in their beds, not knowing anything that's going on. Armand done doused the house in gasoline, and to cover his tracks, he takes Takira's phone, and this nigga sends himself a text message. So he never actually opened the message that he sent to himself, but he texted from her phone and said, "Armand, I let Michael come see Aubrey and he trying to burn my house down. Please help me." Now we know at this point she's already dead. So while he's trying to cover his tracks, a text message came into her phone from her new boo Will. Now he's used to talking to her all the day, all the time, all day. So he sends her a one-word text message and it said, "Baby." And Armand, he got to think quick. So he texts back, "Yeah." Will text back around 10:26 p.m. saying, "I just needed to know that you were okay." This man was concerned about his girl. Now, I can almost bet he knew what was going on with Takira's exes because, Takira made it, she let it be known, the type of dudes that she had been with before. So I'm pretty sure he knew about Armand. He probably just didn't know that, Armand was around. So Armand responds, "Yes." Now, if you're in a relationship, you know how your boo talks. Like, my nigga know when I message him, he gonna know what kind of mood I'm in. He gonna know, if I'm around certain people based on my message. Like, he knows when something is up. And maybe because Will and Sakira hadn't been together that long, he was still learning her because they were in a fresh relationship. I don't know, maybe because she was, all of a sudden responding with one word messages, he was just happy, like, okay, hey, at least she's responding. So at this point, Armand is doing the absolute most. So he sends a text message from Takira's phone to her mom and her aunt. And it said, "Aubrey Daddy Michael is sitting outside my house." And Angel, her aunt, she's like, "Huh? Michael?" Armand then responds back. Remember, he's acting like he's Takira and says, "Aubrey got a different daddy than Armand." Now, here's where I start to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
Nigga, newsflash. If these are her people, they know who the fuck her baby daddy is. She was with his ass for a whole year after your ass went to prison. So that's where you fucked up because you turned around and gave an explanation as to who the fuck Michael was. Like they didn't already know. Dumbass. Gonna sit up and say, Aubrey got a different daddy than Armand. Duh, they know this. Like the fuck? But Angel responds back and says, I'm lost. How would he know where your new house even is? And then Angel gets a response back that says, because I seen him at the store and he followed me. So the text messages they keep going, back and forth. And Angel asks, "Are you okay?" A message comes back and it says, "He just keep threatening me." Angel says, "For what?" She gets a response back and it says, "He says I won't let him see Aubrey. I text my other baby daddy. He ain't answer. I told him what's going on." Now, her family is very concerned, okay? Her aunt Yaisha calls her, but naturally Armand can't answer because duh, he can't, he can fake a text, but he can't fake her voice. Hell, his big ass can barely fucking talk as is, as we can see by his damn text messages and shit. So her aunt says, "Hey, I'm at work. Is everything okay?" And then Armand responds back as Takira and says, "Yes, I seen Michael." So Yaisha's like, "Is he okay?" And Armand responds back and says, "Aubrey daddy, he tried to argue with me in the store." Now her mama done text her too and was like, "Look, is this another prank?" Like she kind of leery. She like, "What the hell?" But at 11:03 p.m., he sends a text message to her mom and it said, "Mom, I let Michael come see Aubrey and he got a gun and trying to burn my house down. He keep talking about I'm keeping his daughter away from him. He been following me all day. I seen him in the store and he followed me home." This nigga ain't seen his child in over a year. Aubrey is now 2 years old, but all of a sudden, this was the story that our mom came up with. So time is running out right now. Like the kids are asleep. He done killed Takira. It's been over an hour that he done killed this girl and he in her house. So he know he got a dip. So remember y'all, he done doused the gasoline everywhere. He sets fire to the house, leaving Takira dead and Armand Jr. and Aubrey to be burned alive. Okay, so on a side note, a little fact about the house had just been renovated. So the windows were like brand new. They had double pane windows and it prevented air from coming in. So when Armand set the house on fire, I don't think he, really anticipated it happening the way that it did because the fire kind of was like still going, yes, and there was smoke, but it wasn't as strong as it could have been. Like I think he, envisioned like a blaze, but it didn't quite work like that. Now, as he's running out of the house, Takira's neighbor, David Cousin Jr., is coming home. Now, he parks across the street from the building that he lives in and he gets out of his Chevy Traverse. David Cousin Jr. was born February 25th, 1984. Sadly, like with most cases involving something like this, there's more information on the assailant than there is on the victim itself. But, David was a very hardworking man. He worked in contracting, doing home renovations and construction in homes. He was building his own business. Now, he also had this little girlfriend by the name of Denisha Mapp that he had been rocking with, on and off for about 15 years. And during this time frame, they were back together. But by all accounts, David was well liked, by his employees, his family, and his friends. They really loved him. So he gets home that night, he gets out of his car, and he sees somebody else standing. Now it's late at night, it's damn near midnight at this point. And there's not really a lot of street lights in that area, so he can't see shit. So when he gets out, he walks across the street and he goes up his driveway and he sees somebody standing there and he's like, what the fuck? But the closer that he gets, somebody raises a gun. And David's like, oh shit. And he just starts running and running for his life. David, he's running and running and running. And it says that Armand was running, but I'm like, okay, come on, bro. Like, Armand was a big nigga. like not big like buff, but Armand was a little chunky boy. He was a little pudgy. Well, little wasn't the word. He was fat. Okay, like bro can't be running like that. Like he don't look like he was in the best of shape. You know what I'm saying? Like unless you consider a depressed ice cream cone a shape. But I think it was just a situation where he started to like chase after him, and then he just started shooting because obviously a bullet is a lot faster than a person. But David starts running towards this vacant lot, and Armand just fires off like, fuck out, fuck out, fuck out. He's firing. He hits David, and David falls, dying in the middle of the vacant lot. Now, this is late Monday night, and after killing David, Armand takes off and he runs past Akira's house on East 63rd. And after he passes it, he starts to slow down a bit. He's walking and he sends a text message to tell his aunt to come pick him up. He texts his aunt Kalita and he says, come get me, same spot as last time. He goes to the McDonald's on Broadway and he waits there for about 10 minutes before Kalita comes to get him. And she's got this like white sedan. So he gets into the passenger seat, goes home. Meanwhile, Denisha Mapp, that's David's boo, she's on the way to his house. She calls him and he hasn't been answering the phone. Now, it's a little unlike him because, they back kicking it hard, they talking every day and she's used to hearing from him, especially since he knew that she was coming over. But she ain't tripping, because she's on the way to see him. So she calls him again so that he can unlock the door like he usually does before she gets there. But when she gets there, she parks behind his truck and she goes up the walkway. She goes to the door, but it's locked. And she's knocking and knocking, but no answer. She's looking, she see the lights is out. So she's like, all right, that's a little strange, but okay, I guess. So she gets back in the car and she goes back home. Now I'm wondering if, she noticed that the house next door was smoking. Like at some point while the house was on fire, Aubrey wakes up and she goes into her brother's room. Now her fingers touched the wall and left prints in the soot. But she goes into her brother's room and, neither one of them know what to do. They're babies. They're clinging to each other and the two of them end up dying in the fire. Now, the next morning, July 9th of 2019, around 8 o'clock that morning, Lisa Carl comes home from work and she takes her dog out for a walk. She's walking through the Slavic neighborhood and she comes across this like vacant lot. She's walking and she looks and she's like, oh my God. She sees a body on the ground. She immediately calls the cops. And when they get there, they see David Cousin Jr. lying on the ground. He's covered in blood, and Lisa tells them, like, I know him. That's one of my neighbors. That's David Cousin Jr. He lives upstairs from me. Police confirmed David had been shot in the chest and in the head. So the first thing that the cops do is, she told them he lives upstairs from me. So they go to his house. But when they go to David's house, and this is well after they've started their investigation, mind you, like hours, they see something else that gets their attention. Now, David was neighbors to Takira and he knew her. Like, he didn't know her like well like that, but he knew her. He knew that she had some trouble as far as her relationships. Like, he wasn't really in her business like that, but he did know somewhat of what was going on. So the cops, they're going over to his house, and as they're getting closer, they see smoke coming from Takira's house. And one of the detectives, he sees this, and so he actually tries to open a window from the outside. And he was successful, but when he moves the blinds, he said that he saw the scariest thing ever. It was children's feet. He said, I saw little children's feet. So he notifies his supervisor, Lieutenant Jerry Tucker, and he's like, hey, I got to go in here and find out what's going on. He climbs in through the window and he sees that two children are lying there dead. He then goes into the back bedroom and he finds a woman dead from gunshot wounds. The fire department gets there and they do what they got to do to, make sure that there's no further damage and make sure that the fire is completely out and all of that. Now, Lieutenant Tucker arrives and he has his body camera footage on, and, he sees that the children are lying on the bedroom floor and that the house was smelling like smoke naturally. So the detective said that the house was charred. It was very dark and very hard to breathe in the home because there was so much smoke damage. All the walls were blacked out with smoke. And as much as Armand had gone through to send them text messages, this nigga damn sure should have put the same effort into cleaning up the crime scene. Y'all will see what I'm talking about in a minute. So they start taking pictures and photographs of everything, and that's when Detective Kevin Walsh arrives. And he sees a gas can on the bedroom floor of Takira's room, and immediately he's like, that shit looks so out of place. Like there's a pile of burned clothes, blood splatter, bullet casings, and then there's this one fired bullet. But he keeps looking at this gas can and he's like, the fuck? Now, they happened to see Takira's iPhone on the arm of the couch, and surprisingly, it hadn't been affected by the fire at all. So they're like, all right, grab it, bag it, and tag it. That's exactly what they do. But again, Detective Kevin Walsh, he's looking like, why the hell is there a gas can in the room? Like, who the hell stores a gas can in their room? Man, nah, something ain't right about this. Like, and I 100% agree. But they got to figure out who's responsible. Takira's family is notified, and her mom, she gets there and she's crying. She's devastated. She's like, I need to see her. I need to see her. Her brother, he's there too, and they're both just they're boo-hooing, when they find out that not only is Takira gone, but the babies too. Her mother damn near faints. Like, and she's telling the police, she's like, I know exactly who did this. It was Michael. She texted me last night and she said that Michael was threatening to kill her and that he had pulled a gun on her and that he was going to burn her house down. It was Michael. I know it was. And the police are like, all right, cool. We've got our first lead. So they bring Michael Stone into the station and they start questioning him. They coming at him hard too because he's the father to one of her kids. And at one point he was in a relationship with her. So, while her baby daddy was in jail and, as soon as the nigga get out, the baby daddy is engaged, they coming to him because they thinking that's what caused it. They trying to figure out what happened. So they're like, well, hey, you had to have done it. We know you was mad. We know you was upset that another nigga was tapping your girl. It's okay, you can tell us the truth. Michael was looking at them detectives like they lost their damn minds. He was like, nah, that ain't it. On some real shit, I ain't even seen her in a while. And he tells them, shit, I ain't seen her or my daughter. And so they're trying to angle it like, oh, so you were mad because you were paying all that child support and you wasn't seeing your kid. But he was adamant. He was like, I'm telling y'all, I know that I wasn't around for the kid like that, but I damn sure didn't kill my own child, let alone her mama. I ain't trying to be out here killing off nobody. That ain't my life. And they're trying to place him at the scene of the crime, but Michael got an airtight alibi. See, Michael worked at this sandwich shop called Sub City in Maple Heights. Like that motherfucker was making sandwiches until 5 o'clock in the morning, according to his timestamp. So now they're back at square one. Now, while they're doing all of this, the Cuyahoga County medical examiner is now examining the bodies. Listen, I probably fucked that county name all the way up, but that's what I'm gonna call it. Okay, Cuyahoga County. Now, the medical examiner has officially ruled the deaths of David Cousin Jr. a homicide by shooting, Takira Collins homicide by shooting, and Armond Johnson Jr. and Aubrey Stone died of smoke inhalation. 4 counts of murder in a matter of an hour. So while Michael was cleared of being a suspect, the cops are like, all right, what's the first thing that we do when we're trying to find out who's responsible? We need to find out more about who Takira is. So They run a simple little, I guess you could say a background check on Takira. They put her name in the system and they see that she's got a restraining order up against a man named Junius Thompson. And they see that it's pretty recent. So they bring him in. They're looking at Junius, and word has gotten around town now that Takira and her kids have died, and people are starting to gather at the house. They're grieving, they're hurting, they're crying, and Armand decides to join everyone at the house and grieve. So he goes and his big ass tries to blend in with the family and everything. And at the same time, Junius is in the investigation room. And the detectives, they grilling him. They're like, you got something you want to tell us? We know all about the restraining order. Just go ahead and fess up. But Junius is like, nah, you got the wrong one. He's real honest with him about his relationship with Sakira. He tells them, like, yeah, we had our issues, and yeah, I probably roughed her up when I shouldn't have, but I ain't doing this kind of shit. I ain't on this kind of level. But then he mentions someone that gets their attention. He tells them, y'all need to be checking out her other baby daddy. She told me before that that nigga was crazy and was putting his hands on her and shit. Like, he ain't do the same shit, but okay. So the detectives, they're like, well, who's her baby daddy? They go back and they look at the records and they see that it's Armond Johnson. But what really strikes them is that when they see her baby daddy is Armand, they also see that there is a warrant out for his arrest from a robbery from March 20th, 2019, literally like less than 4 months prior. Remember, I told y'all the day after he got out, him and his boy went to go rob a fucking clothing store. And since then, there had been a warrant for his arrest, but they just couldn't catch his ass. Well, fast forward, this nigga is at Takira's home grieving. Word gets out, Cleveland police officers arrest his ass right then and there. Now, they couldn't get him on a murder yet, but they could damn sure get him on the robbery charges because remember, he's on parole and the nigga got a record a mile long. So as soon as they get him to the station, they start questioning him. And I actually watched some of the interviews with him and the questions that they were asking him and, the things that he was saying. It didn't make no fucking sense. Like, they're asking him questions like, do you know what was going on? We just want to talk. They're feeling themselves because they already know that they got his ass on robbery, so they want everything. But Armand, this nigga really thinks that he is slick. Like he's telling them, I wasn't even there. He's telling them that, oh well, Takira was my world, man. That was my son. My son is gone. And Aubrey was like my daughter. I just took them to Detroit for my family reunion. Side note, can you go out of town when you on parole? I mean, I guess so, because he did, but okay. Like, and nigga, you had a warrant. So, okay. Anyway, now best believe while his ass is at the station, they collecting evidence. They are getting traffic cam footage and they see where Takira went to the McDonald's to get the Happy Meals for her kids the night before. Then they're looking and there's a home camera, like, one of those like ring cameras and everything. It's connected to one of the houses that was near Takira's. And they see where Armand comes to her house. The camera captures her car pulling into the driveway and then it captures it going back out and then it comes back in again. It sees her and her kids get out, but then they see where Takira's car comes out of the driveway, but it's not Takira driving it. The biggest damning evidence of it all was when detectives see footage of Armand standing at that same fucking McDonald's where Takira was for 10 minutes waiting on a ride. Because remember, he texted his aunt and said, come get me, same spot. Now, as soon as they look closer, they see some shoes. This nigga got some very unique shoes on, so it's kind of hard to miss. Now, they contact Chad Chesson with the Ohio State Highway Patrol and ask for some assistance to track Armand's phone and, map his locations. Investigators, they ask Armand where he lives, and he tells them that he lives with his aunt and his grandmother. So they go over to his aunt's house in Cleveland Heights, and what do you know? The very same white sedan that they saw Armand getting into in the video footage at the McDonald's, is parked in the driveway. Bingo. Time to get a search warrant, baby. They get a search warrant and they go into the house and they're taking photos and collecting evidence. They take Khalid's cell phone. They take some shoes and some jeans that belonged to Armand that had blood on them. Nigga, how you don't even like you don't even get rid of the shit. You don't even wash it. Ugh. These were the very same shoes, by the way, that Armand had on in the damn video. Like, did you not? I'm still like, did you not even think to get rid of this evidence? Like, why wouldn't you get rid of this shit? You try to burn this woman's house down, but you left so much evidence at the scene of the crime. Then you come back to your auntie house and you just left shit. You left clothes with blood on it. You left shoes with blood on it. And the shoes had like a unique design. So, like, what the fuck? All of his stuff is taken in and is put in for testing. And surprise, they find everything is consumed with gasoline. Remember, his dumbass left that gasoline tank in Takira's bedroom after he doused the house. They get the cell phone records and they find out that Armand's phone was in the vicinity of Takira's house pretty much that whole evening the night before. Like, this nigga must have thought he was Kevin Gates with these two phones. He tried to, do the whole, well, one of my phones was off, so I was over there because I was paying a phone bill to get the other one on, and that's why I was over there. That's why it pinged over there. But what he didn't know was that they had Khalid's phone too. They pull it out in front of him, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Armand, can you tell us whose phone this is?" And he was like, "Oh, that's my aunt Khalid's phone." And they show him the messages where he texted her and asked her to pick him up from McDonald's. And he's trying to act like it's no big deal. But like at this point, nigga, they got your ass. Like literally less than a day later, they ended up charging him with the murders of Takira Collins, Armond Johnson Jr., Aubrey Stone, and David Cousin. On July 12th, 2019, Armand goes into court for the first time and he's held on a $5 million bond. He pleads not guilty. Yes, y'all heard that right. This idiot literally pleads not guilty. What in the entire fuck? Naturally, his black ass couldn't bond out, so he spent his time in the jail. On July 18th, 2019, David Cousin was laid to rest by his family. His sister, Brandy Smith, she said, David knew about Takira's previous abusive relationship and she said, well, I could see him checking on them, especially knowing that there were kids there. She said that her family knew something was wrong early Tuesday when David hadn't returned anybody's calls because he was always quick to respond. And she said that in a way, he was an angel that led them to the other family. He sacrificed his life for them. It's crazy because if the lady had never walked her dog, they wouldn't have seen David's body and been led to that house. Very much true. 2 days later, on July 20th, 2019, Takira and her children are buried, and their service was at the Zion Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Friends and family came from everywhere. Takira's aunt, Anaya Collins, she spoke and she said about Takira, she was the ultimate great mother. She was a hustler. She did everything for those kids. She went on and she talks about how Aubrey loved princesses, especially Princess Tiana from The Princess and the Frog. I love that movie. Shout out to Princess Tiana. Like, I'm grown as hell, but I love Princess and the Frog. Like, shout out to the representation of us. Like, I'm here for it, okay? She also talked about how Armand was into cars and sports and Fortnite, and how both Armand Jr. and Aubrey loved Pokemon. She said that Jr. was so smart and intelligent. Like, they were beautiful kids. Armand Jr., he actually belonged to the Boys and Girls Club in the Cleveland's Broadway location. So they actually all came out, they paid their respects, and the memorial was just littered with photos and stuffed animals and, all kinds of it was so sweet because some of his friends had, talked about him and they said that he had this just infectious smile. And one little boy, asked, well, what happened? And one of the, staff members of the Boys and Girls Club was like, well, they died in a really bad way. And, he didn't want to tell the little boy how he died because, he's a child. He wants to try to protect his innocence as much as possible. And, nobody should hear that at such a young age. It took a while because of the pandemic. So after Armand was officially charged and everything, he had to wait for his trial. Like he got arrested in 2019 and it takes a while for the trial to begin anyway, but the pandemic really slowed stuff down. So it put a lot of stuff on hold, but y'all, this nigga had 26 indictments that included several counts of aggravated murder, counts of aggravated burglary, felonies of the first degree, 3 counts of aggravated arson, 1 count of kidnapping in violation, 2 counts of endangering children. Like the list just goes on. The pandemic, eventually, of course, died down. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of hoping that the virus would have taken him out. I know that sounds petty, but at the same time, like the nigga needed to suffer, like I was kind of like, okay, pandemic didn't take him out, took out innocent people instead, but I digress. So on August 8th, 2022, the trial begins. Armand is facing the death penalty, but his attorneys, Jim McDonnell and Tom Shaughnessy, they're trying their hardest to try to find a way to keep him from frying in the electric chair. There were several people that testified, including Takira's neighbor, Anthony Geeter. Now, he testified about how he had originally heard the gunshots and he hit the floor, and he testified about how he smelled the smoke and everything. And you know what? I'm wondering if he called the cops. Like, if you heard the gunshots and you smell smoke, at any point did you call the police? He then testified and said that as he was going to bed, he looked out the window and saw a white SUV drive up and park on the street and saw a lady get out and walk towards the back of the house where David Cousin lived. I'm assuming, that was Denisha Mapp coming to see David. Now, Denisha also testified about what happened when she arrived and how David didn't answer. Kevin Walsh, the detective with the Cleveland Division of Police that had discovered the gas can, he testified as well to his findings in the crime scene unit. Cleveland police officer Michael Shea, he testified about the DNA swabs that he found from everything. There were several other people that testified, all the way down to the forensics, the cell phone footage, and tracking the vehicle. Now, what really fucked Armand up was there was forensic video and audio expert with the Cleveland Division of Police named Tom Chula. When I tell you he broke those images down and had everything time stamped showing exactly what Armand was doing, he was like, yep, here's the image where you see Armand driving Takira's car. Here's the image where you see Takira coming home. And Armand was just sitting there like, fuck. Then they put his auntie on the stand. Kalita gets on the stand and the prosecution talks about the text messages that was sent to her phone and how she was asked to pick Armand up. This is some stupid shit. This lady tells prosecution that the reason she came to get him and the reason why he had this gas can is because he often mowed lawns for the family business. Girl, where? That was the best that you came up with? Like, this nigga was mowing people's grasses at 11 o'clock at night? Okay. But the prosecution, they ready. They done pull pictures from his cell phone and they see a picture of a semi-automatic gun and a full magazine on his bedspread. They've got DNA evidence. They've got images to show that he was there. There were 1,161 text messages to and from him and Takira. They showed the canceled contracts with the wedding vendors and how Takira was planning to move to, a domestic violence safe house and wanted to get her number changed as well. They even went as far as searching her phone and saw that she Googled, what if your son does not want to see his father after the father has been abusive to the mother? She was actually looking at several domestic violence, like self-help websites. And again, the most damning evidence was the blood that was on the jeans and on the left shoe. It was a 93% match for Takira's blood. Both parties end up resting, and Armand's attorney moves for a judgment of acquittal, not on the murder, but on the arson. They said, well, yeah, okay, so we get it. He's being accused of murder, but he definitely didn't do the arson. Like, that's some wild shit, y'all. And so the jury was like, all right, we'll take that into consideration. Psych, bitch. They did not. The trial lasted about 3 weeks, and on September 2nd, 2022, the jury comes into the courtroom with their verdict. The judge, Timothy McCormick, keep that name in the back of your minds because you're going to hear it again really soon. Hint, you're going to get it in the bonus episode. Anyway, so Judge Timothy McCormick, he says, on the counts of aggravated murder, how do you find the defendant? And the jury said, guilty. The judge continues and he says, on the counts of arson, how do you find the defendant? Once again, the jury, guilty. Armond Andre Johnson Sr. is found guilty of 14 counts of aggravated murder, 3 counts of arson, 2 counts of endangering children, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of tampering with evidence. Baby, when I tell you the amount of silent praise in that damn courtroom, as the old folks would say, you could hear a rat piss on cotton. Everybody was happy, except Armand, of course. So, sentencing has to begin, and now is where Armand is using the waterworks. He's facing the death penalty, and rightfully so. But his attorneys, they're begging the jury. They're saying, well, he had a very troubled childhood. He had a troubled past. He struggled academically. He grew up with no running water. All this bullshit. They talked about how his mom didn't really talk about his medical or mental or educational needs as a child and how he had a low IQ. Robert Kaplan, a forensic psychologist who often testifies in, death penalty cases, he states that Armand would have not committed the murders had he grown up without trauma, neglect, and, basic needs. And that's bullshit. But the prosecution was like, listen, we get it. He had a rough childhood, but that doesn't equate or negate the facts that this man took over an hour to kill 4 people. It doesn't negate the fact that the day he got out of prison, he turned around and robbed somebody the very next day. It doesn't negate the fact that he had already been in prison before for robbery and rape. Agreed. Prison is supposed to rehabilitate, but it didn't do shit. So why have sympathy for him now? Like, listen, we all have been through things, okay? We all have experienced trauma. It's unfortunate, especially with our people, especially when it comes to people of color. But unfortunately, with the Black race, we're going to experience a lot of trauma. And yes, there are some people that that need a little bit of a push and need a little bit of help. I myself have experienced trauma. I've experienced rape, child molestation, being abused, being starved. My ass has dealt with emotional trauma on a different kind of level. Growing up in an environment of what goes on in this house stays in this house. Growing up where you just don't go around the pervert ass pedophile family member rather than have their ass actually locked up, not addressing trauma and not working towards fixing it. But I ain't out here killing motherfuckers. I ain't out here burning houses down and shooting people. So it's only so much that you can use that as an excuse, because it is plenty of people that went through trauma, plenty of people that, went through worse and are living their lives the right way. So fuck out of here with that bullshit. I guess the jury took pity on him because after about 4 hours at the sentencing, they decided that he shouldn't have to face the death penalty and instead recommended a life sentence. So on October 14th, 2022, Armand Johnson, at the age of 29 years old, was given 4 consecutive sentences of life without parole for killing David, Aubrey, Armand Jr., and Sakira. The prosecutor, of course, was pissed. I would be too. Now, Michael O'Malley was the prosecutor for Cuyahoga County, and he said he shot and killed 25-year-old Takira Collins inside her residence. He then set the house on fire and fled the scene. He brutally murdered 4 people, including his own son. His callous actions demand that he face the ultimate punishment. Indeed, I agree. Like, why kill the babies? Why? Armand was sent to the Belmont Correctional Institution in Ohio on November 17th, 2022. He just recently filed an appeal in January of this year on the reasons that there were errors in his counsel. He states that the text messages that the prosecution was referencing shows that yes, he did threaten her, but that he was just angry and that there's no way that he could have did it. One of his reasons for the appeal even stated that he never knew he was a suspect. What? Say what? How do you not know that you're a suspect and you sat in the police station giving them the information? There's stuff that you have to sign off on that states that you are aware that you are under investigation. It states that you are aware that you know your rights and that you have a right to an attorney. And you could have asked for one at any time, but no, you sat there and gave information. Like, he's trying to milk this whole low education thing for all it's worth. His defense tried to argue that the autopsy photos were improperly admitted, but that didn't really go anywhere because remember, the cops had body cam footage that they saw firsthand. And, the appeal was ultimately denied and his current conviction stands. To date, he is still incarcerated at Belmont, where he will be for the remainder of his life. 4 consecutive terms. Like, nigga, do you know how bad that is? Like, I don't even want to say that shit out loud. Like, when you hear 4 consecutive sentences, like, bruh, you gotta do time, die, and then if your soul comes back and you still gotta be locked up. Like, you gotta be locked up when you are beyond bones. Like, that's insane. Your ass is gonna be dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and you still gonna be doing time. I was looking at the website for the prison and I busted the fuck out laughing because it actually said jail time credit was like 1,237 days. And I'm like, does it matter? Like, the niggas in there for life. Them little days ain't gonna matter. But anyway, yeah. So that is the story of Armond Johnson, a man that just couldn't let go. And now it is time for fair or foul. On this one, definitely fair. Like, honestly, it would have been better if they would have just executed him, but he got 4 sentences of life. So I guess, I don't personally feel like his background should have anything to do with his sentencing to that extent. Like, yes, people go through things, like I said, but most people, if they have experienced trauma, they try to better themselves. And he had an opportunity to do that, but he continuously fucked up. He got arrested and got put in prison. He was abusing the person that he claimed that he loved, the one person that had his back, the one person that was there for him. And then when he had the opportunity to do better and show her that, he didn't. He literally turned around a day fucking later after getting out of prison and did some grimy shit. That doesn't seem like somebody that wants better for themselves. That seems like somebody that just wants to fuck off. And that's exactly what he did. You were basically acting like a fucking child. You were acting like your son. Your son could throw a tantrum. He's a child. But because you couldn't have what you wanted anymore, you decided to kill her and the babies. And then you try to cover it up. And instead of cleaning up the crime scene, you fucking sent text messages to try to blame somebody else, which I guess I get to an extent, but you kept telling her, that you didn't love her and didn't want to be with her. You wasn't showing that you loved her because you kept putting your hands on her. You pulled a gun on her. You threatened her. You couldn't fucking leave her alone. Like, do you not hear how dumb you sound? Like, you literally killed your own baby, my nigga. He was asleep. He didn't even know you were there. For what? Why would you kill him? What was the reason?
And what was the reason?
Yeah, I ain't forget that shit tonight. Like, it was, that question was definitely valid. But like, seriously, what did a 6-year-old do to you? He was asleep. You already killed his mama. You could have let him be. Him and his sister, they were asleep, so they couldn't have named you if they didn't see you. But you killed your own son. You abused the woman who did nothing but love you. You beat her. You pulled a gun on her. You threatened her. And you expect her to want to stay with you? You expect her to want to be in a relationship with your crazy ass. Don't nobody want to stay around that. Don't nobody want to be in an environment where they have to worry about their livelihood or hide bruises and scars. I wouldn't want my kids in an environment like that. Like, at the end of the day, your environment and how you grew up didn't have shit to do with what you did. You chose to rob those people. You chose to shoot those people. You chose to kill your own kids. You chose to rob a store the day after you fucking got out of prison while your girl was out here on her grind, while your fiance and the woman that you claim that you love as your wife was out here making something happen for y'all, while she was out here planning y'all's wedding, while she was out here taking care of y'all's kids. You chose to do all of those things. And when she saw that you were really what you were really about, she moved on in her life. So yes, I say the sentence was fair as fuck. I can only hope that when you're in prison, that the stereotype about inmates and fucking up inmates that kill kids stands. I hope that somebody rips your asshole 5 inches wide. I can only hope that you can barely sit down from the amount of pain that your ass is in. You can't use the low education card when it benefits you. You claiming that you had a low education, that you grew up in a bad environment and all of that, but yet you had the opportunity to do better and you chose not to. People make choices. Once is a mistake, more than once is a choice. You can say, "Oh, I'm not smart," but then you know how to use a cell phone because you stayed texting her nonstop. You can't say, "Oh, I'm not smart," but you know how to grab a gun and you knew that you weren't supposed to have one while you were on parole, hell, before you were on parole, but you did it anyway. So miss me with the bullshit. Fair as fuck. All right, y'all. That's really it this time. Sorry, I got a little long winded, but that is all for this week's episode. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. And that's a number one, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On Twitter, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. And it's the number one, by the way. On Facebook, you can send a friend request to the page, The Infamous Ones. It's a public page. Anybody can friend. Or you can join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group. Y'all, our little group is growing by the day. I'm so proud. Thank you. Keep inviting your fellow true crime folks. Just remember, if you don't answer the questions, you ain't getting in. Okay? That's simple. But once you do get in, let's chop it up. Say, hey, I'm always in there talking to folks. I'm always doing giveaways. I love communicating with people. I love talking to the folks in the group. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on. So leave a review. It only takes a few seconds. These reviews matter, y'all. And speaking of reviews, let's get to some. This one comes from Instagram. Like, I think it's actually my first IG review. It comes from Divinely to Neil. And it says, sis, I think I done found my new fave. First of all, the code switching is what I live for. You sound just like me and my homegirls. Third, the gamut of emotions is so relatable, from laughing to crying to being hot as, to being hot as fish grease. Yep, new fave. Listen, that just made my day. Oh my God. Like, thank you. I appreciate it. That's so dope. Like, I love it. Here for it. The second review comes from Mitt748 on Apple Podcast, and it says 5 stars. Love the commentary and storytelling. Keep doing your thing. Listen, that's the plan. I want to keep telling these stories, but I really need y'all to like flood Apple Podcasts with these reviews. Like, yo, y'all got me out here like a review junkie trying to get my fix. Okay, like, sorry, that might be the alcohol talking. Sorry. But no, on some serious stuff, like I really need y'all to leave reviews. Like if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, scroll down, click write a review, 5 star the shit out of it, and leave a nice little review so that I can read it when I'm doing these episodes. If you're listening on Spotify, I set it up to where you can leave reviews. It'll say, what did you think of this week's episode? Leave a review there. Trust me, these reviews really help because like the streams are great, but I really, really, really need some reviews to really get that podcast out there and to really, get it amongst the people. You know what I'm saying? If you want to support the show, or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning that liquor done hit your system because we've been sipping on it all night, click the link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to and hit listener support, excuse me, to subscribe. The subscriptions start at $4.99 and it gives you access to stuff that listeners don't get from behind the scenes. Like, how I told you guys, starting this month, I'm going to be doing some, extra stuff for subscriptions. So, yes, in fact, I will be. Starting this month, those that subscribe, they get, extra sneak episodes and whatnot that you guys won't get. So, if you want it, go ahead and subscribe. If you want to drop a little something for snacks or, my favorite drink, because a chick is a bit parched with all of this talking. You can also donate via the Cash App at $infamous1pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. If you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you just want to leave a review there, send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com, baby. And once again, people, please share, share, share. Like the Care Bears say, sharing is caring, okay? Share, share, share. Did the Care Bears say that? I don't know, but it sounds good. Anyway, share, leave a review, y'all. Let's make this podcast go epic. Leave a review. It means a lot, and I want to keep it going, but I really need y'all's help to do that. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week with a new episode. Actually, not even next week, really. Well, technically, yeah, but I'll see y'all on Monday with a new episode because I promised y'all, and y'all not about to be flooding my inbox with the craziness, okay? But thank y'all for tuning in. Peace and blessings. Love you guys. Love and light. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.